we'll start with a little intro, and then we'll just go from there, okay?
Roger that.
Alright. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a brand new edition of the Frankie Floss Show. My first broadcast of 2007. And what would be a broadcast without a brand new interview? Well, I have with me a guy who's very close to the area, but who's had a legendary career. A famous stunt guy, or stunt coordinator, even a race car driver at one time, and a fellow roper as well, or bull rider. He's been in such films as Kansas City, The January Man, and Quantum Leap, and many other different TV shows and movies as a stunt guy and stunt coordinator and whatnot. I give you Greg Walker. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Frankie. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to finally meet somebody that's actually not so far away for once, you know?
Well, Bemidji isn't very far. I'm in Bemidji, Minnesota, which is just a little south of you guys.
Oh yeah, it's basically just a couple-hour drive, basically, or whatever. So, anyway, as a way to start off the interview, let the people know, or what got you your start in stunt coordinating, and just what got you interested in that?
Well, my life in the industry basically started at home. I grew up in the business. My father was an actor and a stuntman and an extra, and basically made a living in the motion picture business doing whatever he could do.
Yeah.
So I just grew up sitting at the dinner table listening to stories about stuff that happened on the set, and it was just a natural transition for me. Thanks to my dad and his reputation and everything, it gave me an easy into the business. So I kind of just, it was just natural. I didn't have anywhere else to go. It was an easy way to go to work.
Yeah.
And so I just started out working as an extra back in, the 60s. I've been in the business working in front of the camera since I think it was like 1964.
Okay.
And so I worked extra for a few years. But my first job was basically a stunt type of job. I worked at the New York World's Fair in 1964 in New York in Flushing, Queens. And we went back there with a show for the World's Fair, and it was called the Black Hawk Gunfighters or something. And we put on these skips at the Texas Pavilion, and that was really my start. And then after that, I came home and was allowed to join the Screen Extras Guild. And then after that, shortly after joining that, I was offered a chance to fall off my horse, and that made me join the Screen Actors Guild as a stuntman. And then I worked boat cards, which is what we called it in those days, worked boat cards. I worked extra when I needed to pay the bills, and took a stunt job when I could get it.
Oh, sure.
And then I got good jobs working stunts. A good friend of my brothers and my family, Everett Creech, who has since passed away, gave me a chance to go to Mexico on a good job, dubbing Peter Strauss.
Okay.
And after that, I didn't work extra anymore, and I just started doing all stunt work, and eventually phased into coordinating, companies having confidence in me, and producers and directors liking the way I worked, and I was able to become a coordinator.
Okay.
And I did both, and then I phased into doing second unit directing, and joined the Directors Guild in about 1987, I think. And basically just filled it out doing that kind of stuff, working along one of the crew members till about 1995 when I moved up here. And I moved to Bemidji in 95 and worked a few shows, coordinated a few shows after that. I'd leave here in the winter time, and I went and did a few shows for some friends, and there was a Bruce Willis show I worked on, Breakfast of Champions, which not a lot of people saw. I worked a lot for a director named Alan Rudolph, and I think the last show I actually did as a coordinator was in 2000 or 2002. I have to look at my records, but it was for Bill Paxton, a show called Frailty.
Okay.
It was a pretty interesting project, and since then I've been just knocking around. I told you earlier we owned the Bemidji Speedway for about 7 years.
Yes.
And we operated it for 5, and then we decided to phase that out of our life and moved on. And now I'm kind of going back to my roots. I grew up around the rodeos.
Oh, yes.
And was a bull rider before I started doing stunt work. And, well, I guess now that I'm kind of semi-retired, the passion for the rodeo life has come back again, and I'm now getting involved in the raising of bucking bulls and getting involved with some of the breeders and people that are in that business. And I'm hooked up with a friend of mine, not to be so long-winded, but just to give you a little bit of what's going on. I'm hooked up right now with a friend of mine named Mike Porter that has a website called RodeoStockyard.com, which is an online auction website for rodeo stock and rodeo equipment. And I'm kind of a secondary administrator for him when he needs a little help. He set me up so I can go in and help him when he's out of town, and that's kind of what I've been doing the last year or so.
Well, that's interesting. It's nice to know that you like to keep yourself very busy and whatnot. Very busy with whether it be with stunt coordinating or be in the rodeo or just race car driving or just whatever, whatever interests you. I did look at your website, and obviously that's how I met you, but I also understand that you're really into like nature and wildlife, and that's why you kind of picked northern Minnesota or Bemidji, or where you live right now, as a place to live because it's so beautiful around there.
That's very true, and it kind of fell into our lap. My wife is a wildlife artist, very wonderful painter. I'm a little prejudiced, but I can say that without any remorse. She's a beautiful painter. I don't know if you got a chance to check her stuff out.
Yes, I did.
I had a link to hers. And I came here specifically to look at and buy the racetrack here, and when we got settled and realized what a beautiful spot and wildlife area it is and how much habitat there was here, it just fit right in. And so when we decided not to do the racetrack anymore, we did stay here in northern Minnesota because of that.
Oh, yeah.
So my wife is working diligently, doing her wildlife artwork, and she still does some Western art. Actually, she's gotten started just recently doing portraits of bucking bulls and rodeo stock, which has been real popular. They want a portrait of their favorite bucking bull before they pass away or something.
Yeah.
It's been real good. But she works real hard too. She's vice president and chairman of the membership of a group called the Women Artists of the West, which is now, it was based on the West Coast, but now it's all over the United States and Canada, and so that keeps us both busy. I help her, and she helps me.
Well, that's kind of nice team effort, that you guys got. And yeah, I did go to her website too, and she is very talented. She's very good. She got pictures on there that that you would think that were just photos just taken, but they're so realistic that wow.
Yeah, that's very true. She is a realist. Some people enjoy that type of work. We do. We know there's all kinds of different attitudes and personal taste, but we particularly like the realist work. And you can reach, if anybody's interested out there, they can go to her website at LindaWalkerArt.com. It's real easy to find. And just take a look. She does some really beautiful stuff.
And does she sell anything online at all, or?
Yeah, yes, she does. There are some prices there and processes and PayPal and all the regular internet stuff. It's all there. She's getting back into doing more shows, personal appearances and shows and stuff. Actually, she just got home. She spent the whole month of November in California and Hawaii doing an art show out there.
Oh, wow.
And so I finally got her home here and trying to get her back to work.
Well, that's interesting. And now with you with your outstanding career, your 40-some year career, just being in the entertainment industry, I noticed here that you were, of course, you've been on some TV shows, obviously. You were in Kung Fu, and you were in about 3 or 4 episodes of that or
Kung Fu?
Yeah.
Actually, I was the coordinator on. Now this is the original in the early 70s.
Yeah.
They went on and did an additional show here a few years ago called The Legend of Kung Fu, using David Carradine also. But I went in and I worked on the original TV series in 1972 through 74. We did like 3 seasons.
Okay.
So I worked on all but, I'd say, 3 episodes of that. They had done a 2-hour pilot and 2 1-hour. And when they very first started that, they started it out doing 1-hour segments and would show it once a month, and they interchanged it with 3 other show ideas. It was a strange concept in those days. And I had seen it and thought, boy, that's the weirdest show I've ever seen. And it turned out that the popularity of it and the audience demand, they wanted to see more of it. They started a weekly TV series. Well, it turned out that a good friend of mine that was the first assistant on a show I did in Mexico, which was The Wrath of God, was the director, Ralph Nelson. And I was working for Everett Creek. Well, he got the job, and the director, which was the producer also, Jerry Thorpe, asked him, who can we get the double David Carradine for the TV series? He says, I got a guy for you. And they called me in. I got the interview, and basically was there for 3 years. It was a wonderful opportunity for me. It actually springboarded my career into being a coordinator. In those days, Warner Brothers didn't, I can't get into the legalities of why they do things, but they basically didn't give stunt coordinators a screen credit. So I negotiated the second season into a screen credit called Stunt Liaison, which is what a coordinator is. But so I got Stunt Liaison credits on that for 2 years, and it was a wonderful experience. I knew nothing about martial arts, and I learned it for the TV, and I met some really great people. I've met a lot of great actors, and it just kind of snowballed into, I went on doing stunt work after that, just working for other guys, but it gave me credits where I could go in and have confidence to ask people to let me be their stunt coordinator.
Oh, sure.
So that show was really good for me, and David was very interesting in those days to work with, and he's still around. David's looking real good now. He's I see him every once in a while, so... Any other ones you got in mind?
Well, that's where my next question was going to lead to. Of all the actors or actresses that you worked with throughout your stunt coordinating career, or just through all the films that you've been in, who was your favorite to work with? It can be male or female.
Boy, that's tough because there's so many good guys, so many good. There's a few bad eggs in every basket, but there were some really good people. Peter Strauss, I worked at Double Peter Strauss. I don't know if you remember him. He did a lot of TV stuff. You saw his face, you know exactly who Peter Strauss is. But I did Double Peter for, he was actually the star of Soldier Blue, was the name of the first large feature that I went to Mexico to work on, that one I was talking about, where Everett gave me the shot at Double Peter. And from that, Peter was very loyal, so I'd say Peter was one of my favorites for sure. I did some coordinating for him also when he got into producing some TV projects. Gosh, it's just so hard to know who was my favorite guys and who wasn't.
That's maybe a trick question, just because, you have worked with so many. How about Dick Warlock? Because I know you guys are, even when he said in his interview last week, that you guys are pretty good friends.
We have known each other a long time. Dick was a very good stuntman and a good actor. And I was put in a position where I would be able to ask him to work for me, and I put him in the spots where he did a lot of acting for me. Show we did together, which was a Bicycle Messenger movie. I can't remember all these titles either, but Dick was really good. You interviewed Mickey Jones.
Yes, I did.
Me and Mickey go way back. We worked extra together back in the old Daniel Boone days. My dad was a stand-in for Fess Parker on Daniel Boone and helped me get into the business. Well, I met Mickey working on Daniel Boone, and he was a drummer at the time working clubs in the Southern California area, and he was just a great guy, and we've been friends ever since. And since I heard your interview with him, I actually contacted him through email, and we're back talking again. So
that's cool.
It's been really good. Yeah, it's been really fun.
I'm glad I can make that happen for you.
I appreciate it. It really was fun. I mean, we get Christmas cards. We exchange Christmas cards, but do we ever really take the time to sit down and talk to each other? Not very often. We both would like to see each other, but gotta say, we're quite a ways from
Yeah.
right now. So.
Well, you know, I mean, who knows? That could always be arranged, and trust me, if Mickey Jones ever came down and visited with you, you'd have to let me know, because I would definitely love to meet him, just as I would love to meet you as well. And you know, and all the people that I've interviewed, you know, it's such a, as I was telling you yesterday in our pre-conversation, you know, it's just so amazing, you know. They always said, you know, with radio, you're going to meet or talk to people you never thought you'd ever have the chance to, you know. Can't do that anywhere else.
Well, and there's also the same type of quotes about the motion picture industry, and I have to say that it has been a very, very exciting and interesting life for me. I love to travel, and that had a lot to do with why I went out and tried to find work on feature films more than locally on TV in Los Angeles, because I wanted to travel.
Oh, sure.
It took me to places that I would have never, ever dreamed of going. I got to go into places that the general public is never allowed to go, just because we were going to shoot a movie there, you know.
Yeah.
My introduction to Minnesota was through the motion pictures.
Yeah.
My first introduction to Minnesota was working on a film in St. Cloud.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, George Fisher, was doing a small, low-budget film up there for a guy that was raised in St. Cloud, and basically hadn't done anything. He was basically fresh just out of film school and was making a film called Catch Me If You Can.
Okay.
And his name is Stephen Summers.
Now, is that anywhere like the movie Catch Me If You Can?
Not the newest one that's been out about the traveling con man.
Yeah.
This was a film. It was called the same thing, and it's the only instance that I know of them ever actually making another film without it being a remake.
Yeah.
But this was with Matt Lattanzi and produced and directed by Stephen Summers. And Stephen Summers was just a young kid at that time.
Yeah.
And I came up and I worked on the film, and I actually did a part in the show called The Widowmaker, which I was a hired gun to come in. It was about kids racing cars on the street.
Yeah.
What it was. I don't know if you ever saw that show.
Nope. I don't think
St.
so.
Cloud sure know about it. I'm kind of notorious down there for being the Widowmaker.
Yeah.
I was hired by the bad guy in the movie to come in and race him and run him off the road and try to keep him from succeeding at his goals. You have to see the movie to know what I'm talking about, but it was a lot of fun, and I got to do a lot of car stuff on that, but I also got to do a pretty good part in it as the Widowmaker, and it was pretty interesting. But it introduced me to people in Minnesota, and after that I was gone for a few years. Then I came back and did another show in Minneapolis for Alan Rudolph, which was Equinox. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one either.
I don't think so. There's a lot I haven't seen yet.
Well, and they're a few years ago.
Yeah.
So I have to, apologize that I don't have a lot of new credits for you guys. This was a Matthew Modine show right there in Equinox. Equinox was in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
They didn't call it Minneapolis. They called it something else weird. Empire Cities or something.
Yeah.
And Alan was always just on the verge of being futuristic weird. And it was Matthew Modine and Laura Flynn Boyle was the team.
Okay.
But there was some really great guys in that. O'Connor, I thought of his name a little earlier, thought about him. If you asked me about good guys or not, this kid was really a good guy. But I got to work in Minneapolis, and I said, well, I'm going to call my friends in St. Cloud and go up and take a visit, because I hadn't seen him in a few years. And it was a man named Buzz Christ, who was actually an ex-racer and a racing family. But he had been hired on, so how these stories go round and around. Buzz had been hired locally to help build the stunt cars.
Okay.
So I got to know him because we were doing car chases, and my friend Rick Siemens, who's a well-known stunt car driver and teacher, did a great car jump in it where he jumped a 57 Chevy over like a 6.5-foot fence almost through the goalpost at the high school. And so we got to know Buzz, and I came back up to visit Buzz when I was here on Equinox, and long story, to make a long story short, he said, why don't you buy a racetrack and get into the racing business? I got to thinking about it. A few years went by. I shopped racetracks. They called me one time and said, there's a place called Bemidji, Minnesota that has a racetrack for sale. I was thinking about it. I came up here. It was right at the time I was working, you mentioned Kansas City, for Robert Altman in Kansas City. So I came up from there and made the deal, and we decided to make the move, and so here I am in Minnesota. And without the motion picture business, I would have never thought about coming to Minnesota. It was a well-kept secret.
Well, you do like it around the area, I'm sure, and that's like we mentioned already, and and like I said, I've been trying to get hooked up with some of these people, and I know you were mentioning to me, and maybe this would be good publicity for you, a little early probably, but you're talking about doing a documentary on bull roping or something like that, or bull riding?
The bull breeding business, where they're breeding these bulls, and for the rodeo and for bull riding. Everybody's familiar now with the PBR on TV.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I was saying I have a desire to put together a package and try to sell it somewhere that would include basically the bull industry, the bucking bull industry. And I'm finding out the more I'm around here, there's a lot of it going on in these northern Midwest states than I gave credit to when I first thought about getting into this. Even though the big bulk of the breeders and everything are in Oklahoma and Texas and all down in there. My friend Mike Porter, who has the RodeoStockyard.com, he's in South Carolina.
Okay.
So the business, and it's like computers have opened the world to everybody. It's made the world very small. So I would like to be able to do what I love and still be involved in a craft that I'm very aware of, educated in, which is producing and basically on set working. It's just a lifestyle that you can't get out of your blood. The rodeo is one that is resurfacing now, but production and being involved in film in any form of the art is still in the blood, and I just feel lost without being involved.
Oh, sure.
And you asked me earlier, when did I get started performing? I basically got started performing when I first learned to walk. My dad was making movies, not necessarily anything that was published or produced or anything, but he was making movies, and I was working those, and then he was a rodeo announcer. Like I said, I was raised in rodeo. So I worked with the rodeo clowns, and when they did acts in front of the audience, I would do silly things like run out and let the dog pull my pants off. So I've been working in front of audiences and crowds almost as long as I could walk. And so, I try to keep busy, but it's awful hard to get that out of your blood. I can't just sit here and watch TV. Getting old, you can't stop, but you don't have to just sit and vegetate.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I tell you what, I do appreciate the fact that you are on, and we're almost out of time.
Okay.
One thing that I want to do, well, first of all, thank you, for letting me interview you. I think, since, like I said, and I know this for a fact, that, that you and I will have a chance to meet here soon, and, since you're not that far away,
That, you can count on it. Whether you want to or not, you're going to have to put up with me. I'm going to come and visit. I want to see your community, and we will talk some more.
Yeah, and you know what? And like I said, if there's any way that I can help you live your dream as far as the bull roping and bull riding experience or documentary that you want to do, as I told you before, I would be a perfect host for a documentary, because I think in the future, I think that's what I'd be good at,
Well, we will discuss that. We can definitely work on it.
Okay. And last thing I want you to do is what I told you yesterday, is give me a legal ID.
You got it. Okay, this is Greg Walker. You're listening to Frankie Swanson. Can we do a take two?
Yeah, Frankie Slauson.
Slauson, I got it right. I can't read you.
That's okay.
All right. Hi, this is Greg Walker. You're listening to Frankie Slauson on Pioneer 90.1.
All right, and like I said, man, I do appreciate it, and let people know about Pioneer 90.1 and Frankie Slauson and whatnot.
I sure will, and you keep me posted if you get any ideas, and we'll get together and visit real soon, Frankie.
All right, Happy New Year, man.
Thank you, my man.
All right, bye.